And we just, from my standpoint, is that anything I showed him, he always had a different way to train on it. I introduced him to the small bag. It was made basic for kids. And I said, no, this is good for the, he calls it the hook kick. It's actually a round kick, because our hook kicks, so it's what we call now tech. So he has a little small bag, which is actually for children. And he started using that to kick and things of that nature, you know. My times alone with Bruce Lee, well, I really treasure it, because they were, I was allowed to be, if I wanted to, creative. I was allowed to question if I wanted to, which was very rare in a traditional Japanese or Chinese or Korean or Okinawan system at that time period. You know, their rule was law at that time. So we did a lot of experimentation. He did a lot of experimentation. He encouraged me to do a lot of experimentation, which I liked, you know. And the process was that it just grew from there by the mistakes we made, and what we found to be very successful for training. And from there on, it was just like, for me, it was like every day was like a complete, what do they call that, satori, or an awakening. Because every day was new, it was alive, it was fresh, as he called it, fresh blood in the vein. It was never rehearsed. You know, we did a lot of questioning of whether it was workable, whether it was not workable. I enjoyed that part. And he did a lot of experimenting on me, which I liked. I felt in the beginning I took a lot of shots for him. I did, when I say shots, body shots and like that. And then he learned to control that a little bit better, where I felt very comfortable. And I think he felt I was durable, so he could experiment a lot. And then he would go back and teach it to his private lessons when he started to, by what he discovered through the process of just working out. In the acting part, I don't think he, this is just my take and I could be wrong, I don't think he really considered himself an actor. But I think he first considers himself a martial artist before an actor. But my own observation of him, he learned to act by just studying books, watching different people. He says that he wasn't going to try to act. He says he was just going to try to be himself. And if he could be himself, then he didn't have to act. You know, he's actually acting out what he really is, or doing what he really is. So his take on acting was just to be natural. And I saw that from his one or two lines in The Green Hornet to every picture he seemed to be more relaxed. Of course, there's a lot of people who say, well, he's not an actor. I don't know about that, because I don't know what a good actor is. But what he was doing was just, he said, I'm just going to express myself, and I wanted just to get across the point through action. Because he says, action is my form of acting. That's the basic line. He said, that's my form of action. It's an expression of what I do. And when I talk, it's just an expression, if he was in that situation, what he would do. For me, that was my first stunt job, and he said he wanted me to double for a mako. And it was called the praying mantis. And it says, you don't have to do the praying mantis set, but you want to look like the praying mantis. And he says, I'm going to have you double. It was very educational for me, because that's my first stunt job ever. And obviously, I think I probably made a lot of mistakes on that too, but he was nice enough to not yell at me or scream at me, and just let me do my thing as it progressed. When he left for Hong Kong, he told me, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to read up, I'm going to be sort of a director. I'm going to be a cinematographer. And he started naming all these things, because I've been reading up. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, but you're a martial artist. And I'm saying, how are you going to learn cinematography, directing, and all the different parts, lighting and stuff like that, and just overnight, you know? And I didn't say it to him, but in my mind, I'm thinking, I don't think you're ready. And so what he did was study a lot, because he felt it was important to learn a little bit of everybody's job as to highlight his action. He also told me that it had to be more kicking than hands, because hands, you have to widen the motion up. And so that's what he did with a lot of his punching. He widened it up a little bit, because has to take time in the eyes of the camera to register. If he did all the short stuff, it wouldn't register. So he went to kicking because you could see the motion, gives it time for the stuntman to react to it. And he made really a study of it because he realized, I think in the beginning, he tried to fight, do it like you're fighting, and you can't do it. You know, just like you can take fencers that way too. They could be very good and even collegiate champions, but it's different when you do it for theatrical fencing. And he understood that, you know, about how to make it work, how to time it so you have a pause. He had pauses where most fight scene was. He had the pause and they go, and he would just stand on that, and then he go. So he knew how to put the pauses at the right time, and that came just by studying different people. He did it a lot by studying Japanese swordplay, and he took a lot from a lot of stuff like dramatically, how to make it more dramatic, and that came about through just studying and using a videotape to see what it would look like. For me, it was a great enjoyment, and for me, it was like, well, for him, because I know it accomplished what he wanted to accomplish. It was a big thing, so I was happy because he was happy that he had gotten to. I didn't really think, this is funny when I look back, because I really didn't think. I know he always was a good martial artist, but I didn't think, and people said, well, he's not an actor, he's never going to make it. You know, and it's really nice to see a person make it, even though he might not have been the greatest actor in the world, but he had definitely had presence on the screen. He was dynamic, and I knew he could do a lot of things for real, so that made it even more enjoyable to watch him get to that level. The only thing I remember about the Big Boss is he said he's working with a lot of Thai people, and he thought that was kind of interesting. He had a Thai champion there. He thought it would be nice to, because you know, he could research a little bit there too, and he could also make a film there. So the only thing I really remember about the Big Boss is that he's had a lot of Thai people on the set, and he said he'd like to make a good picture. But my opinion on the Fist of Fury, this is where he really wanted to promote the Chinese culture. You know, that he was not the sick man of Asia, like, and that's the lines were, I think, were well fitted, because that's what he was always trying to teach, that, you know, there's another part of the Chinese culture that people had not ever seen. Well, he was just ecstatic. He said, well, this picture topped it, and he was just very bubbly over the situation. And he says, I'm going to make it better. The next one, I'm going to make it, I'll top that one too. And he wanted to do that because it brought out the Chinese image. That was his big concern, because he didn't think it was a good image, especially in the Western world with he said the pigtails and with their hands folded through the jacket like that. It's too much of a stereotype. And so he wanted to break that stereotype of the Chinese. And he thought that by doing the Chinese martial art, people would appreciate the Chinese culture. And if they could appreciate the Chinese culture, he says, it's a good connection and appreciation of other cultures. And so I'm just doing my small part, you know, to educate the public. He was always in the thing that films could educate faster than anything. He says you could write a book. He said that there was no videotapes in those days, but he says you could write a book, you know, a booklet or a book. He says, and that doesn't really educate, but said one film can educate you, whether it's the facts are true or not. It educates and people remember it. Says I can educate faster through the film than I can through teaching, and I remember that part. So he says this film is going to do it. It's going to educate people on the Chinese and have a different image, he said, for the Chinese. On the way of the dragon, I think he was trying. That's one of the lessons there. One of the lessons was that he wanted to show the broken rhythm that he was losing, and then when he started using the broken rhythm, that he would regain his proficiency. The other thing is when he tried to show by honoring that there was respect, even to the person. That's why he put the gi over Chuck Norris, and that was a sign of respect, that even though a warrior pays tribute to a warrior, even though he's defeated him. I worked with Bruce Lee on the Game of Death, and they're very educational for me because, again, he says, just be yourself. And he coached me on my scenes and my few lines that I had. And in the fight scenes, we just went back and forth. He established what I should do, what I shouldn't do. And I found him to be a very, very patient coach for me when I was first getting into the business. The bottom floor was supposed to be guarded by karate. And this changed many, many times. The second floor, at least when I was going through, he says, will be guarded by a person very proficient in something like praying mantis. And the third floor would be a kicking system and a throwing system. And then the fifth floor, but he changed the floors. I thought it was supposed to be a weaponry floor, which he wanted me to take care of. And then the last floor was the floor of the unknown, which is he uses Kareem Jabbar as. It has no style. It's the style of the unknown. At each floor, he has to learn how to solve the problem of fighting with that particular plot. And for me, he just called me and said, would you love to play it? And at the time I was teaching school, I asked my principal, could I take off for 2 months? And he said, well, you're not going to get paid. So I did that. I took off for 2 months and went to Hong Kong. And he says, I'll make sure that you're taken care of, and you can make the picture from there, and then you can maybe put your input, and that might be good, and that's how it started. When we were filming in the New Territories, that was to establish my character as a kind of a disciplinarian and very, very strict with it and harsh to his students. That's why he has me do a lot of different things and sort of be a little bit too abusive with the people I'm working out. That was to establish my character. So we filmed in the New Territories and we shot shots there, but no one seems to find that footage, you know. And I don't know if that was just for that just segment there, and no one seems to have it. But I remember filming, and I remember shooting a lot of photos for advertisement or commercials for that particular partner. But I do remember it was filmed in New Territories. He was behind the film. He always coached me how my posture should be, the kind of attitude I should have, you know. And he just coached me every place. He said, no, I don't like that. You look like you're slopped over. And he has me going through different postures he thought that would be more appropriate to the character I was playing. Robert Lee was very nice to give that as a gift to me. And it was a picture with his voice in the background telling me, no, that doesn't look good. No, put it at that angle. No, no, no. Try it at this angle. You should know. That doesn't look too good. That looks not strong enough. So that will never go for... He would just coach me every place, and he would have me do the technique over and over and over again. And I think that it ran about seemed like 20 minutes of it, and which Robert said I could use, but be careful who you give it to, and et cetera, et cetera. When Robert showed me, then I do remember him coaching me. You know, you should do this, you should do that. Slow it down a little bit. It's going to go off the camera at that angle, and he says, no, this is not dynamic enough. Things like that he would stress and talk while I was performing with the sticks or either with the nunchucks. I think I was in Hong Kong when Weintraub came over. I believe I was in Hong Kong, and he told me this. He thought it would be really good, and that he would probably postpone the work on his own project, Game of Death, and probably go with Warner Brothers on this particular picture they were working on. And he's very excited about it, working with the caliber of people that were going to be in the picture. That's what I remember about it. And turned out to be pretty good by most people's opinion.